So it has been almost a month since Planet Coaster and Roller Coaster Tycoon World released to us via Steam, and to say that the response to both games has been different would be a grotesque understatement. Today, Planet Coaster stands high and mighty with an excellent score of 93% on Steam user reviews, while Roller Coaster Tycoon World sits at a lowly score of 31%. So what the hell happened? Well, this isn't going to be so much of a comparisons video as much as it is looking back and really analyzing, what went wrong. So let's take a look back at what led up to this outcome. It all started almost 2 years ago when the first trailer for Roller Coaster Tycoon World came out. No, not that one. Oh, there it is. Oh man, this was the trailer that sparked my channel's involvement in roller coaster games. A horrible mishmash trailer of a sequel to the beloved Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise that barely looked any better than Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, which released well over a decade ago. And still, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 continues to have more players, almost double the players of Roller Coaster Tycoon World, and that's just the people that play Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 through Steam. Oh, and just for the record, the original Roller Coaster Tycoon has triple the players in the last 2 weeks than Roller Coaster Tycoon World has had, so there's that. So it was around the time that this horrendous, god-awful trailer released to the public, and it had a horrible response. It was around this time that the mouth of Atari, the game's publisher, apologized for the trailer's terrible reception and vowed to make the game better. And then they just went radio silent, and it was around that time where they went radio silent and we were just sort of in this we have no idea what's happening stage, that a charming cinematic trailer dropped announcing Planet Coaster, igniting euphoria amongst the fans that had just been burned by Roller Coaster Tycoon World. Now, one of the good arguments made by Roller Coaster Tycoon World loyalists, and there aren't many good arguments considering that the remaining loyalists are all either 10 years old or grown adults with severe calcium deficiencies who eat glue, but one of the good arguments is that Planet Coaster fans act like fanboys, which they're absolutely right, they do. After such a charming trailer and announcement, Planet Coaster frankly deserved to have fanboys. From that point on, Roller Coaster Tycoon World would be looked at with eyes of skepticism, while Planet Coaster would be looked at with eyes of love, and just, oh my god, I love Planet Coaster so much. I even experienced some of what the power of these people acting like fanboys could do. My first review of Planet Coaster's first alpha got a lot of dislikes because I took the time in the review to actually say a lot of the things that the game wasn't doing right at the time. Now sure, I wasn't exactly the best reviewer at that time, but still, they came after me for just saying things that were wrong with the game that they didn't want me to say. They were saying, oh, you shouldn't say that, it's alpha, but that's the best time to say things, like you want things fixed, say it when they're still making the game. But I digress. To the outsiders who were never given the initial first impression so many of us were given to that horrible, horrible trailer from Roller Coaster Tycoon World and that really immensely charming trailer from Planet Coaster, many people wouldn't understand why, at the time at least, why so many people were so against Roller Coaster Tycoon World and so for Planet Coaster. And that made it look like people were fanboys for Planet Coaster, which makes sense. But now it was time for Roller Coaster Tycoon World to prove that it could fix its problems and put up a fair fight, which, to be fair, for a certain time it seemed like it was going to. Screenshots started to be released showing that Roller Coaster Tycoon World had massive upgrades to its graphics, making the fidelity and style more clear and realistic. They got a new developer. It actually seemed as though maybe these two games would be competing for our affection evenly. And I even tried to get people to be more even with it. Like, when people were trashing Roller Coaster Tycoon World while these awesome screenshots were being released, I tried to point out to them, hey, don't trash it yet. The games haven't come out yet. However, then I started to look a little bit under the surface. Roller Coaster Tycoon World was on its third developer, and the current developers, like their two predecessors, were gross amateurs. Not only that, but the publisher Atari had a track record for hiring horrible developers to re-release some of their classic franchises. I did a whole video on this, so you can go get more in detail if you want, but essentially, a horrible company was wearing the skin of Atari and peddling shit games based on Atari's beloved brands to people. It only made sense that Roller Coaster Tycoon World would be shitty as well. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why didn't this monster wearing Atari's skin try to hire Frontier, the developers behind Roller Coaster Tycoon 3? Why not try to make a good game? Well, Frontier was busy making a little game called Planet Coaster. All of a sudden, it became clear. Roller Coaster Tycoon World versus Planet Coaster was a battle between a publisher and its old developer. Who would win? Well, obviously the people who develop games, Frontier. As we can clearly see, both in ratings and purchases. When comparing Roller Coaster Tycoon World to Planet Coaster, it's sort of like comparing Star Wars Episode 1 to Star Wars Episode 7, where Roller Coaster Tycoon World is Episode 1 and Planet Coaster is Episode 7. With Roller Coaster Tycoon World, it's been over a decade since the most recent installment in the franchise. You have a lot to live up to, you have no idea what you are doing, people hate you, and the only reason you are still talked about is because people love to talk shit on you. With Planet Coaster, it's been over a decade since the most recent installment in the franchise. You have a lot to live up to. You mostly deliver what you need to. People will still criticize you for not innovating enough. However, considering everything you had to do, it's a wonder you pleased as many people as you did. In the end, everything pretty much played out how we thought it would. There was no comeback by Roller Coaster Tycoon World. Well, it mostly panned out how we thought it would. Based on its brand alone, Roller Coaster Tycoon World has sold over 100,000 copies according to Steam Spy. It made millions of dollars. Considering that the game is made on Unity Engine, one of the cheapest engines to make games on, and the fact that it was made by a pretty amateur developer team, this made probably way more money than it lost. Now, that 100,000 people that bought Roller Coaster Tycoon World still pales in comparison to Planet Coaster's well over 375,000, approaching 400,000 quickly. Now, I want to preface this here. Roller Coaster Tycoon World, in the eyes of Atari, I don't think they lost anything. I think they did exactly what they set out to do. Make a shitty, low-effort game and make millions off of it based on brand recognition, and that's what they did. So, in a way, they sort of won. Not compared to Planet Coaster, but in the goal that they set out to achieve. They won their goal. But when it comes down to it, I think it's still a good day to be a fan of coaster games. Even if this horrible coaster game got a lot of attention and made a lot of money, a better coaster game made way more money and got way more attention. So let's just be thankful for that. I have been covering these two games for the last year. It has just been what I do. It's been my bread and butter, and while I am still interested in covering roller coaster games, I am glad that I can finally just close the book on this topic and move on. And here is where I'll end the main topic of this video. Now, for the end here, I'm going to kind of talk about the future of my channel as it pertains to the end of this chapter in my channel's existence. So over the last couple months, I have been trying to move away from the roller coaster topics, and I've been trying to do more reviews and other such things on my channel, as I always knew the vein of coaster fans coming to Cernek was going to run out. Now, I can safely say that I want to do more reviews, and I want to do them more frequently, maybe even move on to do movie reviews if I really feel like it. But when it comes to games, I specifically want to stick to Steam games that don't get a lot of coverage by the big game reviewers like IGN. One thing that I noticed was it was really easy for me to gain subs and views from the coaster fans that were desperate to have information on Roller Coaster Tycoon World and Planet Coaster, because to be frank, I was one of a few people actually making videos discussing them. It's relatively easy for a smaller YouTuber to basically take over an entire topic if it's not being covered by big networks and there is a demand for information on that topic. Hell, just look up Kingdom Hearts 3 and you will see what I'm talking about. There is literally only one guy talking about it, and he is doing so well for himself because there is the demand for information on that game. So for the longest time, I sort of had this attraction because I was one of a few people covering these games, and it was pretty easy. However, once Planet Coaster took off, my bread and butter, everyone got word of how great it was, and Everyone was reviewing it. Even IGN eventually did a review of it. Those fucking hacks. So that's the main reason I want to stick to smaller budget games on Steam that people want content of, but it's not really covered by, you know, the big budget channels like IGN and those other people. So now that I have a following of over 1,500 subscribers, I think that I can do reviews on these early access games and actually have a competing chance against the other people that are reviewing them. So my question to you guys is, what do you want me to review? I already have many games that I want to review myself, even some older games like Knights of the Old Republic or something like that. But really, what do you guys want me to review? It's up to you, because if you want me to check something out, want to know what to buy, let me know. I'll try it out for you. I'll review it for you. So leave a comment down below on what you want me to review. And I guess that's the video. If you like it, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos, more reviews, and I'll see you next time.